When Stranger Things premiered in 2016, audiences were pulled into a world of government cover-ups, psychic children, and experiments that could tear realities open. It felt fictional, supernatural even, but the creators of the show initially entitled it Montauk, named after a real place in Long Island, New York. And that name was not chosen by random. Because long before the Upside Down existed, there were US government programs involving psychological espionage, mind control research, and classified facilities deliberately hidden from public oversight. Tonight we are going to separate what is confirmed, what is declassified, and what remains unsolved, as we uncover the origins and accuracy of Stranger Things. The Duffer Brothers, creators of Stranger Things, have confirmed in interviews that the show initially was entitled Montauk, not to be confused with Mom Talk. There's even a nod to it in the finale when Hopper says that there's a chief of police opening in Montauk. The original concept was set at Camp Hero, a decommissioned military base in Montauk, New York. Camp Hero is a real place and it operated from 1942 through 1984 and was officially a radar and coastal defense facility. Today, it's part of Camp Hero State Park, but much of the original infrastructure remains sealed or inaccessible. So now we know the location, but the true inspiration of the show came from a collection of stories that had already existed for decades. Stories collectively known as the Montauk Project. Here is what we need to make really clear right off the get-go. There is no official government documentation confirming anything described in the Montauk Project. Just putting that out there before everyone gets excited. What exists instead are allegations, eyewitness claims, and circumstantial evidence tied to real Cold War programs and locations. The Montauk Project entered public awareness primarily through the 1992 book The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time by Preston Nichols and Peter Moon. According to Nichols, the Montauk Project involved the following: psychological and electromagnetic experiments, alleged mind control research, claimed experiments involving children, and claims of time perception manipulation. However, this is important, none of this has been independently verified. What is verifiable, though, is Camp Hero did exist, it conducted classified Cold War radar operations, it was abruptly decommissioned, records from the site are incomplete, personnel involved all signed non-disclosure agreements, and this creates a vacuum. And where there are vacuums, theories and stories begin to write themselves. Before Camp Hero became an official park, Brian Minnick and his friends were able to explore inside of the radar tower. While they never found any definitive evidence of a government cover-up, he did discover documents and sealed entrances, suggesting that the infrastructure of Camp Hero is far more complex, and the base operated for much longer than its officials will ever admit. Minnick found records of mass quantities of food ordered at the base in the late 80s, long after the military left Montauk. Believers point to Minnick's photos of rooms with brightly painted walls and psychedelic patterned wallpaper as evidence, again allegedly. Captive children were also subjected to acid tests. Minnick also claimed that while official blueprints do not agree, the Camp Hero is a base underneath of its radio tower and a series of tunnels below the Earth's surface, but again, none of this has been confirmed. But to understand why people found these claims believable, we need to actually delve into something that is just as sinister but was actually documented. MKUltra, while it was mentioned in Stranger Things as the experimental program Eleven's mother was in that granted Eleven her powers, was actually a real and documented CIA program. It began in 1953, authorized by CIA Director Alan Dulles. I don't know, it doesn't matter. And continued into the early 1970s. Its purpose was explicit: to investigate methods of mind control, interrogation, and psychological manipulation. What makes MKUltra disturbing is the fact that this is not a rumor. The following was confirmed by Senate investigations in the 1970s. The CIA conducted experiments involving the following: LSD and other psychoactive drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, electroshock, psychological stress, and behavioral conditioning. And what's even more disturbing is many of the test subjects did not give informed consent. Some subjects were prisoners, psychiatric patients, military personnel, and civilians who were completely unaware that they were being experimented on. One confirmed case involved Frank Olson, a US Army scientist who was secretly dosed with LSD and later died from falling from a hotel window. The government initially ruled it a suicide, and decades later the case was reopened amid evidence of misconduct. So basically the government had to call itself out for basically being Bill Cosby to its own employees.
That's a real man. Holy shit, did he make some strong drinks.
In 1975, the Church Committee revealed MKUltra to the public. Then the CIA director Richard Helms had ordered many of the MKUltra files to be destroyed. Not just redacted, destroyed. Meaning the full scope of what happened will likely never be known. MKUltra also introduced the concept of operating outside of standard oversight and out of the public eye. Examples of this are that the CIA used front organizations, fake research foundations, foreign facilities, and even hospitals and universities. These locations functioned as black sites, places where activities were initially hidden from Congress, the public, and sometimes either government agencies. It almost makes me think of the Woods in Gen V, whenever I read that they were using universities. The government already proved it would hide human experimentation, and now they are just proving that they would hide it in plain sight. Now I know what you're thinking. You're saying, hey man, this was supposed to be in relation to Stranger Things. This is not just an MKUltra video, this is going somewhere. One of the more intriguing facts of things that the US government has funded is psychic research through the CIA. No, I'm not joking. Yes, it is fully documented. You can look it up right now. Beginning in the 1970s, the CIA and Defense Intelligence Agency ran programs such as Grill Flame and Stargate. These programs investigated remote viewing, the claimed ability to perceive distant locations using one's mind alone. One of the most documented participants of the program was a man named Ingo Swann. Swann worked with the Stanford Research Institute under government contracts. According to declassified documents, Swann successfully described hidden targets and demonstrated statistically significant results under controlled conditions. This declassified document from the CIA even goes into detail about how he was placed in a room and was given a task of using psychokinetics to trigger an instrument they had set up for him. I tried finding any details about this instrument. They keep it very vague and they just strictly describe it as an instrument. Not only was he able to trigger the instrument, it was so consistent and significant that they had began to separate Mr. Swann and the instrument further and further, and even added 2 steel walls between the instrument and Mr. Swann. And not only was he able to still activate the instrument, but his performance was noted to be improving as the session went on. Again, this is on official government documents. I am not making this up. Like, does this not scream Hawkins Lab right now, okay? No, there is not a Demogorgon, but fun fact, there was a Montauk monster, although it's really gross, and it, like, young me was like, oh my god, look at that. It turns out it was just a poorly decomposed raccoon floating in the water.
Turned into some little monster! Rocket, no one's calling you a monster.
But, you know, raccoons are cool too, whatever. In 1973, he claimed to have viewed rings around Jupiter, something we did not confirm until 1979 by Voyager 1. That's kind of awesome. I'm normally a skeptic, but that's just an odd one. I don't know. His work was so compelling that it directly influenced and continued the funding for the program. The CIA believed psychic phenomena were credible enough to pursue seriously for over 20 years, Swann himself earning the title Father of Remote Viewing. They literally called him Daddy. The Stargate program itself wasn't shut down until 1995 when it was deemed operationally inefficient. So really, Stranger Things did not create the idea of secret labs, psychic abilities, and unethical experiments. It just fictionalized a reality that already existed. While the Montauk project remains unproven, MKUltra was well documented and confirmed real. Black sites are confirmed as actual intelligence tools used back then, and I guarantee they're still being used to this day. Psychic research was officially funded by our own government for a very long period of time, and we have official government documents of a man doing things that we would otherwise describe as fictional, not unlike things you would see Eleven do in Stranger Things. So listen guys, records were intentionally destroyed. The truth is not supernatural, it is bureaucratic, and often hidden behind sealed archives and stamped documents. In this case, fiction was not warning us about monsters, it was warning us about ourselves. If we have documentation of just one single man capable of such outstanding feats, imagine what terrors were in those files that they decided to burn rather than release to the public. Let me know your thoughts on this below. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Suzanne, any closing thoughts? Got it.